Hey y'all, I'm Reese.
And I'm Charles, and this is the first episode of
Y'all's President. So you guys might know me, some of y'all at least, might know me from Black Women Views. Last year I started doing a Y'all's President segment to just rag on Trump for 60 seconds or so and talk about how crazy and stupid this fool is. But with the release of the Mueller Report, and it looks like he's not going anywhere, at least not for now.
Nope.
And Lord knows what's going to happen in 2020. So it's really time to start getting serious about what Trump is really up to, what y'all's president is really up to.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot, okay? He's up to more than just tweeting. He has an entire administration that sets policies, that reverses policies from our President Obama. And that's just out there wreaking havoc around the country and around the world. So let's talk about it. So I got my wine.
Got my bourbon.
Because you know y'all's president drives us to drink.
To drink.
Ooh, and I know y'all probably like, I don't want to hear nothing about Trump. I'm turning off right now. Okay, bye. But for those of y'all that are staying still, listen, this is going to make us all a little bit smarter, a little bit more well-informed. And so that, especially when this election season comes, when people are like, Trump ain't all that bad. Trump don't really do nothing wrong. It seems like things are going really good, but like,
They're all the same.
That's the worst one. You could be like, nope, y'all's president was up to no good, and this is why. So, let's start off with this topic. Now, y'all know that a tragic fire, was it caught flame in the famous Notre Dame, right? And you know that's fine. It's a historical landmark. It's super important. You know, there was an outpouring of philanthropic donations and the hundreds of millions of dollars coming in. Y'all's president gonna sit up there and say that the U.S. will help rebuild Notre Dame. Okay, well, what about all the churches that burned down in Louisiana? I didn't hear y'all's president say nothing about that. So why don't we focus our priorities on what's happening over here in the States and let the rich, wealthy French billionaires worry about what's happening in Notre Dame? So that's number one. Okay, but to more serious topics, let's talk about some of the stuff that happened this week. So why don't you go on ahead and kick it off? You were telling me about a USDA change.
Sure. So this week there was reporting of a rule change that went into effect last summer at the USDA, Department of Agriculture, that affects scientific research coming out of that department. Basically, the rule said, or it was issued by acting chief scientist Shavonda Young Jacobs, or Jacobs Young. I'm sorry.
She's not as black, huh?
She is black.
Okay.
And I say acting chief scientist as no shade to her at all. She is an accomplished researcher, an accomplished scientist. She's a career professional at the United States Department of Agriculture. But I say acting scientist to emphasize the fact that we have a bunch of people in this administration who are not permanent employees or have not been confirmed in their positions. So that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so the rule basically said that any research coming out of the Department of Agriculture that's being submitted to scientific journals or presented in conferences or any types of publications has to have a disclaimer now that says that it is preliminary research. Mm-hmm. Basically saying that this research, and I'm paraphrasing the actual disclaimer language, but it says this research is preliminary and has not been disseminated by the Department of Agriculture and doesn't reflect any policy or rules change coming out of the department. Mm-hmm. Sounds benign enough, but for people who actually understand what it means for scientific research to go through the vetting process to make it through make it into a scientific journal, it creates a lot of confusion when someone sees preliminary as opposed to this is the research that's been done, funded, it's gone through the rigorous peer review process, which is the gold standard of scientific research and journalism. And it's basically saying that we ain't really done with it yet. Don't really trust it too much because it's not all the way finalized. And It's basically making the argument that the U.S. government is the arbiter, the final arbiter of what science actually is or means. Mm-hmm. And, I find it interesting, having worked in research labs previously, the early part of my career, and understanding everything that goes through it. Like, what exactly is your reasoning behind adding a preliminary label to it? I have my theories on it, which would be that it's another part of the anti-science campaign that this administration has been championing since before Trump even got in office.
Right. And Republicans.
And Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, it's always this notion of, you know, climate change science isn't real. There's notions on both sides. There's
Right.
good positions on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
No, the science is the science.
Right.
The facts are the facts.
Right.
Things have been studied endlessly. We've seen the results. We're literally looking at the results every day.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't want to adhere or, you know, buy into these scientific facts because it doesn't fit their political narrative.
Right.
And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It's
Right.
another example of the administration trying to change how we have an understanding of what's true and what's not.
That is so true. I mean, Kellyanne Conway was the one who coined the term alternative facts. So this administration has basically an assault on facts, on truth.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to replace governing by logic,
Mm-hmm.
governing by science, governing by research, governing by knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
with governing by ideology.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Right.
I mean, why are we, you know, equivocating on the facts when it comes to the Department of Agriculture?
Right.
I mean, that's not a place where you would really think that there would be too much, you know, political footballing, you know?
There shouldn't be at all. I mean, again, but it's also a place where you're not going to get a whole bunch of sunlight on these types of rules changes.
That's true.
You know,
That's true.
There's already a bunch of scrutiny on places like the EPA
Mm-hmm.
because of individuals like what was his name, Scott Pruitt, that was in there trying to roll back a bunch of regulations. So there's a lot of heat on that already. There's not a whole bunch of heat on. I don't want to say smaller to diminish the impact of the Department of Agriculture, but not as high visibility,
Right.
not as high visibility departments as Department of Agriculture.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, one of the things, or one of the scientific research papers that was cited in the article that I was reading was a correlation between SNAP benefits and asthma-related emergencies in young children. Asthma right now is one of the most prevalent chronic diseases of young children.
Right.
And there is a correlation between asthma instances and socioeconomic status.
Right. And now SNAP, just for the people out there, food stamps.
Food stamps.
Right. Okay.
Supplementary Nutritional Assistance Program.
Right.
Food stamps.
Okay.
But basically, the article was trying to understand, you know, is there a correlation? There was a preposition that there is, you know, a feed or breathe kind of trade-off that people have, you know, in those lower socioeconomic status when their children have these asthmatic episodes or anything like that. So what the study found is that while there isn't necessarily a correlation between, you know, the timing of when an individual receives their SNAP benefits and the relation if they're going to go to the ER to take their child to resolve an issue,
right,
there is a correlation between broader SNAP benefits or, you know, higher amounts of SNAP benefits and the fact that individuals are not going to the ER as much, presumably because if you have higher SNAP benefits, you have more of a food budget coming from the government, then you have more disposable income to actually buy your baby an inhaler.
Okay.
You know? Because if you don't have money to buy your baby an inhaler and your baby has an asthma attack, then what do? You take them to the emergency room. Because you have Medicaid, you have these things that's going to, you know, greatly reduce the cost of that. You take them to the emergency room as opposed to investing in preventative care and making sure that they don't have an asthma attack in school or at home or whatever. So there is a correlation between increased government assistance in the form of food stamps and not having so many children going to the emergency room because they're having asthma attacks and they didn't have their inhaler at some point in the month. But that research had to have a disclaimer on it. Again, research was done, it was funded, it was granted, it was finalized, it had been through the peer review process to put in this journal, but the U.S. Department of Agriculture made them put the disclaimer on there that this is preliminary research that does not reflect, you know, government policies or positions.
Right.
But it's never been that case before.
Right.
You know, and it's just very interesting, and it continues to show why and how this government puts politics and spin above facts, above figures, above accepted research and how they're continuing to try to frame the narrative on how we consume and produce knowledge in this country.
Right. And trying to tell you that you're not seeing what you're seeing, you're not hearing what you're hearing, you don't know what you know. Because this administration has targeted SNAP benefits. It's targeted Meals on Wheels and fundings for those kinds of things. So this administration is hostile to food security for, things that help people lift them out of poverty and things like that. And so it makes sense that when you have research that provides objective evidence and peer-reviewed evidence, like you said, provides proof for the fact that, hey, these government policies or this government assistance actually has health benefits outside of just the fact that kids aren't starving, which is like something you wouldn't want people to do, right? I mean, but the health benefits and the societal benefits, because emergency room visits are expensive.
They're very expensive.
They're more expensive to society. So in this country, if you can't be persuaded for a moral reason, can you at least be persuaded for an economical reason, for government spending, for a taxpayer spending reason? So, I mean, and brought up, it reminded me of earlier in the administration, there was a big brouhaha about the fact that when it came to the CDC, they wanted to change some of the language to try to make it seem more wishy-washy about certain kinds of, findings or certain kind of recommendations and things like that. And so it's important to shine a light on how information from the government, which typically is treated as very credible information, is being manipulated.
Right.
And so we have to be that much more diligent about understanding the information that we're receiving, how we're analyzing it. If there's a political tint, we always want to be critically analyzing information, but now we can't necessarily trust that that things aren't being hindered or whatever coming out of the government. So that's a really, really big deal that I literally had not. I'm on the internet all day. I follow the news all day. I had no idea about this ruling for the USDA.
Oh, it's buried down in the with the Mueller report being out and all the other big ticket items in the news. That's the type of stuff that gets buried. But that's the point of doing something like this that you had the excellent idea to do. Is that there are things that are happening under the radar that have implications that people aren't understanding.
Right. Right. So let's move on to the next topic. Monday, April 15th. Tax day. Did y'all get y'all Trump tax cut? Because Lord, we need to take a drink on them taxes. Okay, no cheers, just tears because.
Right.
That Trump tax scam fucked us royally, okay? I mean, we're talking about a $10,000 tax swing from getting money back to owing money, okay? So April 15th was the tax day. April 15th was tax extension day because ain't nobody got time to be handing over that damn money to the government. But where's Trump taxes, though?
Right.
Trump didn't release his taxes on April 15th. Now, you had Kamala Harris, that's my girl. She released 15 years of tax returns. You had other candidates that released their little tax returns or whatever. The House of Representatives, the House of Ways and Means Committee chair, Richard Neal, requested the tax returns from the IRS. Now, Steve Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary of Treasury, jumped in. He personally intervened in the request and basically told Chairman Neal, no, we're not going to be able to comply with y'all.
Kick rocks.
Now, he had already got checked by Maxine. I'm going to tell you what, if Maxine Waters had got one of them tax returns, she probably could have got them tax returns because Auntie Maxine, she went on ahead and handled that little piss in, okay? Right. She was not playing with him.
Not all in his little feelings.
But I digress. Okay, the topic is tax returns. So, Chairman Neal received a letter from Steve Mnuchin. Mnuchin said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to, adhere to this request at this time." Now, the law is very black and white. The law states that you shall, which means that that's what you're supposed to do. You have to do. You have an obligation to do. Furnish Congress with the tax returns, for any reason that they do. They don't have to have a specific reason. If they request it, then you're supposed to give it to them, period. But, Trump has basically, created y'all's president has created an assault on getting his tax returns, or against getting his tax returns sent to the Congress. He hired a firm to send all these threatening letters or threatening, companies or entities that are thinking about cooperating with Dems. He's threatening the Treasury Secretary. He's trying to discredit something that's incredibly black and white. So, I don't know what he's hiding. It's definitely something, okay? He's not under audit for the past 15 years. So he's trying his hardest, y'all's president is trying his hardest to keep his tax returns hidden. Now, Chairman Neal came back and he said, okay, I'll give y'all to April 23rd. He rebutted all the points in the letter. And he said, I'll give y'all to April 23rd. But I'm thinking this is going to go to the courts. What do you think?
It absolutely has to. And the law literally is on the side of the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee.
Right.
I mean, to make the notion or to say that, he can't release his tax returns because he's under audit is number one, asinine.
Right.
Number one, the president, y'all's president, any president is automatically, their tax returns are automatically put under audit every single year. Obama's tax returns were under audit, and the vice president, Biden's tax returns were under audit. Bush Sr. and Jr., it is law that their tax returns are automatically audited every year. Why? To make sure there isn't undue influence by foreign governments, private entities, anybody who could have influence on the president of the United States to do shady stuff.
Right.
So, but at the same time, every year, Obama's tax returns were released.
Yeah.
Biden's tax returns were released. Bush, Clinton, all their tax returns were released. So to say that that's why he's not releasing his tax returns is a complete fallacy.
Right.
Number one.
Right.
Number two, I don't know what Trump has on Mnuchin to make him believe that he ain't fitting to go to jail for literally breaking the law.
Which is punishable, what, 5 years?
It's 5 years and some X amount of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's different variations of potential liability. Yeah.
But, he could be, dangling pardons out there once again, which, I mean, I don't think Trump would ever do anything like that. But, maybe that's what he's got over Mnuchin. Don't give him my tax returns. I'll pardon you if they send you to jail. But if it was me, I ain't going to jail or the prospect of jail for real body.
Right. Well, I don't think that it's even so much that they have something over Mnuchin. I think that the Democrats, and I know people are going to get mad at me for saying that, but the Democrats have shown time and time again that they are not going to do a damn thing.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're not going for the jugular. They send a letter, the letter gets blown off. And then they send another letter. Hold people in contempt. That's what the Republicans did. They held Eric Holder in contempt. Censure people, move for impeachment or something like that. If Mnuchin thought for even 5 seconds that he would actually be held accountable for breaking the law, for disregarding the law, then he wouldn't do it. But he knows good and damn well that the Democrats are not really about that life. Okay? And I know that sounds like I'm blaming the Democrats for Republicans being, corrupt or whatever. I'm not blaming them. I'm just stating the fact that where have they held anybody accountable outside of a little funky ass letter or a sternly worded exchange in a hearing? Okay? That's it. So these people, we have a lawless administration.
Yes.
If you look at the beginning of the Trump administration, which was already pretty incompetent as it is, it was already pretty corrupt. The stuff that people resigned for at that time pales in comparison to the stuff that people are just blatantly doing and not giving a shit about.
Right.
So I think that, unfortunately, we have a situation where the Trump administration, Trump himself and all his little cronies feel emboldened to disregard the law. They feel like they don't have to, comply with subpoenas. They don't have to comply with requests by the Democrats. They can just do whatever the hell they want to do. And who's going to check me, boo?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that the Democrats have the law on their side. They have a lot of leverage should they choose to use it. But the question is, are they going to do it? What do you think?
I really, 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 really hope that they do. I can't say with 100% certainty that they will.
Right.
Because, like you mentioned, they have not shown themselves to be about that life.
Right.
I mean, sending a letter requesting this information, and I've said it before, there's a cordiality about requesting information than if you don't get it, making a firm demand for it. So I get that, but you have to be able to stand behind your requests and your demands. You've now given them a second opportunity, and April 23rd is what? Sometime next week? Wednesday of next week. So whatever time, if you said that I need them by 12 o'clock and at 12:01 you don't have them in your hand, contempt. Subpoena.
Right.
You need to be, using every tool in your legislative toolbox to get the information that you need, because it's not a political game. This is actual information that the American people needs to know about who's leading the country.
Right, absolutely.
So
we'll see what happens April 23rd. I'm not going to put a lot of stock in anything happening of any kind of, significance. Maybe I don't even know if the subpoena would even be a thing that they would be the next remedy, because it's not even something that's really you need to subpoena. So I don't know what the remedy would be, but I will be watching.
Well, the remedy is putting cuffs on the damn Treasury Secretary and hauling his ass to jail.
Well, that's true, but see, the only problem though is you have to they could criminally refer, right, Mnuchin, but who are they criminally referring him to?
Well, that's true.
William Dan Barr. Okay.
Well, yeah, they could criminally refer him to William Barr, but and this is where the subpoena thing comes in. If they do subpoena, he doesn't comply with the subpoena, that's when you hold him in contempt of Congress, and they can lock his ass up in Congress.
Okay.
They don't need to go through the Justice Department to issue fines or any type of punitive damage for being in contempt of Congress.
Okay. Well, then that's what they need to do.
They have that power, and it's not something that needs to be held voted on by the entire Congress, so the Senate doesn't need to be involved. It doesn't even need to be voted on by the entire House. That committee, the Ways and Means Committee, has the power to hold someone in contempt of Congress for not complying with the rules, regulations, subpoenas, or anything related to that committee.
Well, that's what they need to do. I'm looking forward to that happening.
I'm sitting there with my popcorn and they haul him in.
My drink is getting low. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the last major topic, all right? So let's talk about this asylum change. That was something that made news this week. William Barr, he was busy as shit this week.
He had a lot on his plate.
He had a lot. I mean, they talk about the Democrats, if we get impeached, we can't do X, Y, and Z. Barr is multitasking like a mug. He don't seem to have a problem with multitasking, okay? On the one hand, he's covering for Trump. And on the other hand, he's still changing DOJ policies and things like that. So what I'm referring to is this week it came out that Barr issued an order where basically he is revoking the discretion that immigration judges have to grant bond or bail to people who are seeking asylum that are, they're legally crossing the border. And the judges, the immigration judges, which falls under the domain of the Department of Justice, they have the discretion to say, okay, well, credible fear was established, and so we're going to go on ahead and we're going to let you out on bond. And, the asylum process takes months or even years to get through. And so it's not very practical to keep people indefinitely detained, because their asylum cases are being dispositioned. And so what Barr did was he said, no, we're ending that. So Trump refers to it as catch and release. That's what that's Republicans, the pejorative way of referring to this situation is when you catch them, they claim their asylum and then you release them out to the Republic. Now, in reality, that's what we want. We want people to kind of go on ahead into society and be productive members of society, rather than being a drag on our taxpayer dollars by being held in detention centers. So, I mean, they're currently building 2 more tent cities in Texas at a cost of $37 million through the end of the year for 1,000 immigrants. 500 each. $37 million to detain people. This is ridiculous. So they're implementing policies to increase the length of time that we are detaining people. And they're being detained in deplorable conditions. And it's costing us a lot of damn money. Again, if the moral aspect of it doesn't appeal to you, what about the taxpayer dollars? Can't we do a lot more with $40 million for an 8-month expenditure for 1,000 people? What about we could do a lot for education. We could do a lot for just name a topic. We can do a lot with that money. And that's just 1,000. I mean, in March, they had 35,000 apprehensions at the border. Or not at the border, but illegal crossings. Okay, so you can do the math pretty quickly to see how much this is adding up by this failed policy that this administration has put in place. So what is y'all's president going to do about the immigration crisis? Not, creating another humanitarian crisis on top of the immigration crisis, but figuring out a system to where you can assess people's, credibility in terms of their asylum claims and let them go. And I don't mean, hey, we're going to round up a bunch of people and drop them in sanctuary cities, which is something that he called himself doing. Whether they have any ties to that city or not, we're just going to dump them there as a punishment to Democrats. That's ridiculous. We need to figure out how to address this crisis. And it is a crisis, and I don't mean that in like an inflammatory, oh my God, the Browns are coming. I mean like literally, like there are people that are fleeing deplorable conditions. Trump, y'all's president, is reducing the amount of aid, the amount of diplomatic assistance to those places. And then we're all looking like, okay, well, what are we gonna do?
Right. Like it shows like this policy is more about fear mongering. It's more about punishing people than it actually is finding a workable solution to the actual issue. And it's because he doesn't understand the actual issue, and no one in his administration understands the actual issue because they don't want to understand the actual issue. Because of a true objective study of why, or trying to understand why people are fleeing to the United States, fleeing the conditions in their country, to come here, and actually are willing to, seeing everything that's been happening in the news, because this isn't, the conditions at the border aren't something that's been happening just this past week. It's been since he's got in office when he's done all these crazy things, but people are still, they've made the calculation that there's a better chance of them surviving, their children surviving, if they make that trek to get to our southern border than to stay in those conditions. And to your point, you then reduce the humanitarian aid to those countries, which then exacerbates the political decline, the crime-ridden issues that are going on in the area. And so you cut off the funding and shut the door. And what do you really expect to have happen? You're not really doing anything to address the root cause of the issue. It's just, let's keep the Browns out. We don't want any more of the Browns in here. The country's full.
Meanwhile, you got Russians coming over here having having babies.
What
is it called? Having birthing tourism. So that they can come and have their kids in America and have their kids be American citizens. And most of the illegal immigration happens from visa overstays. Not from people crossing the border.
And seeking asylum. People coming over in planes. On planes. Coming into the country and overstaying their visa. I kind of recall a certain first lady who kind of had that same situation.
So-called genius visa. With Einstein. She came in on an Einstein visa.
I'm just saying. And Trump is so worried about the southern border. I think I read this week that Canada's prime minister is now looking for help to secure their southern border with us.
Oh, is he trying to keep Americans out?
Yeah. But ain't nobody talking about that. Ain't nobody talking about the flow of immigrants into Canada because of the conditions possibly in the United States.
It's a mess, y'all. It's a mess. We have, as y'all can see, yes, the Mueller Report was the big news this week. The Mueller Report, I've already gone into how I feel about that. The Mueller Report didn't do a damn thing. Okay? And y'all can keep holding your breath on impeachment. Now, I'm team impeachment.
Yes.
But I also understand that it's probably not going to happen. And so I think...
Say one thing about that. It's very, very interesting to me when people continue to push this narrative that impeachment would be so bad for the country, would be so divisive, it'd be this, it'd be that, it'd be whatever. But those are the same people who are supposedly strict constitutionalists who now don't believe in what the founding fathers put in the Constitution.
Right.
How does that work? Like there is a remedy placed at your fingertips right there in that document that hasn't been touched by all the other amendments that the Constitution has gone through over the last 200 some odd years. But the same people who are like, we're strict constitutionalists, we need to do this, we need to do that. Oh, well, now we don't really need to do that because it's going to be politically damaging, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. I thought it wasn't about the politics. I thought it was about, adhering to what the forefathers wanted for this country.
Well, when you're trying to put Brett Kavanaugh on the damn Supreme Court, then we're strict constitutionalists. But when we're talking about holding a corrupt criminal president to some, not me, to y'all,
right,
then the standards are completely different.
If there was no other president in the 44 other presidents who that particular clause in the Constitution was written for, this guy is it.
Okay. Hello.
They saw him 250 years ago.
And that's just, and even if we don't even talk about Mueller, all the stuff that he's done,
right,
it's been criminal. Okay? Criminal, corrupt, whatever.
Not bad judgment.
Yeah.
Criminal.
Michael Cohen is going to jail over some shit he was directed to do by Trump. Now, how bad does it suck to be Michael Cohen?
I'd be hot.
Paul Manafort made $60 million with Ukraine doing all kind of corrupt shit. This motherfucker
had a nice ostrich.
He was stunting on Lil Uzi Vert and Lil Yachty with an ostrich jacket,
Italian custom suits and shoes and whatnot.
All kind of shit.
He's 70. He don't need no more life after that.
He got multiple houses.
Cool.
All kind of stuff. This fool got 7 years for all the shit he was doing. Michael Cohen got 3.
And still looking for somebody to pay his legal bills.
And he's still struggling. He's still like, wait, look, I got more files. All come help me.
Please, not yet.
I don't know. Maybe Michael Cohen should just held out like the rest of them.
Right.
Roger Stone out there being belligerent and shit still. Paul Manafort. Maybe Michael Cohen had it wrong.
Right.
But anyway, Michael Cohen is going to jail.
Jail.
For stuff that Trump told him to do. Okay? Meanwhile, Trump's sitting up in Mar-a-Lago tweeting up a damn storm.
On Easter weekend.
But he's free, though. So it don't matter what he tweets. Because, apparently, as long as you tweet it, you can be held criminally liable for it. So anyway, all that is to say that we're going, if more than 3 of y'all watch this, because right now, I don't know. I had a theory that people were interested in the news. I could be totally wrong. What you think? How many of you think you're gonna get? 8?
Sure, let's go with 8. What's the over/under?
The over/under. Under is 3, right?
So we're gonna. I'm gonna say 10. You want to take the over or the under?
I'm gonna take the under. I've been doing this vlogging shit long enough to know. I don't know. But let's say if we get more than 10, then we'll do another Y'all's President podcast.
Okay.
If 3 of y'all watch it, then fuck everybody who turned off 11 seconds, okay? We had some good shit to say, but you never saw it.
I learned y'all something.
Anyways, that's all we got for Y'all's President.